มาว่าวันนี้ผมอยู่กับ Paul Ince อดีตนักเตะชื่อดังของแมนเชสเตอร์ยูไนเต็ดและลิเวอร์พูลนะครับเป็นโอกาสอันดีที่เราจะได้คุยกับนักเตะระดับโลกที่ผ่านประสบการณ์ทั้งในการเป็นผู้เล่นในการเป็นผู้จัดการทีมที่สำคัญเราจะไปคุยกับเขาถึงบทบาทการเป็นคุณพ่อซึ่ง Paul Ince เนี่ยได้เดินทางมาที่การแข่งขันกอล์ฟรายการพิเศษระดับโลก Rangewood Icons of Football นะครับเป็นงานที่รวบรวมไอคอนฟุตบอลระดับโลกที่มาแข่งขันกอล์ฟกันที่ประเทศไทยครับงานวันนี้เนี่ยรวมนักเตะระดับโลกหลายคนเลยนะครับเรียกว่าเป็นขวัญใจของแฟนบอลชาวไทยรุ่นผมก็ว่าได้นะครับทั้ง Paul Ince เดอะไวท์ยอร์กร็อบบี้ฟาวเลอร์นะครับเรียกว่าเป็นงานระดับโลกที่เราได้คุยกับนักเตะระดับโลกจริงๆครับ Anyway, growing up being a big Man United fan myself, especially in your era, this is a big honor of me for me to get to talk to you.
Thank you. You make me feel very old. You know.
like I was joking, I think you would do very well if you being like in the pitch last night at Old Trafford.
Yeah. Listen, I think last night was disappointing, wasn't it? And I mean, sometimes you have to accept and understand that Man United are just not where they need to be quite yet, and and it's okay to lose. I don't mind losing matches, but it's how you lose the matches. And last night, the way they lost that game at home wasn't what you'd expected. Listen, we know Manchester United have a long way to go before they're going to start competing with City and like Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, those type of teams. But to lose a game 3-0, which could have been, and I hate to say it, 6 or 7, shows they've got a long way to go.
What are some things that you learned from that mentality that also developed into your later stage that you finished being a football player pro?
Well, I think, when you think about mentality, character, determination, desire, all these traits that are within, normally come from your background. The way you've been brought up, unprivileged kids, no parents, that type of stuff. So you learn as you get older now all the things that you need in any walk of life, in any business, any job, but more so as in football, my career wasn't just about being a footballer. My career was about sending a message out to people who believed they couldn't be a footballer or couldn't be a doctor or couldn't be a nurse or anything like that. That, if you live in a poor area and you've got the desire and the will and determination, you can make something of your life. And that was my message to people. So when I kind of play football, I have to show that message in the way I play. And as you said, that was fighting and, and tackling and, for the fans and for the players. That was me. That was me. And I think, even if I didn't play well, even if I had a bad game, I'll go back home and I'll say, right, the next game I'm going to be the best player on the park. That's the mentality you have. It will never affect me by playing badly. And I always believed in myself. I believed in the players alongside me. I was lucky to play with, Roy Keane and Robson and Giggsy and Beckham and Cantona, all those players, Schmeichel. And we all had that same type of mentality, that you need when you're at a massive club like Manchester United, when you know that you're expected to win, not all the time, but expected to win in a certain way. And if you lost, you didn't lose because the opponent were the better team. It's lost because we missed 3 or 4 chances and they get one and they score, and the fans can take that, and that kind of mentality is kind of going away. As generations have changed, it's become a little bit more softer. Players and and people in general are a little bit more fragile. So it's tough, and we always talk about. You just said you grew up in my generation. You can talk about Patrick Vieira, Desai, players like that. Have a mentality. But the generation has changed, and football's changed to a certain degree. And it's tough because we don't talk about characters no more. We don't talk about these characters. We talk about them in the past, but every team that or every manager or fan that you hear from every team, they say, we've got no character, we've got no desire, we've got no leadership, and it's tough. It is tough, and but sometimes it's built within, so it's built within, and that's what you've got to have, especially if you play for Manchester United.
Fortunate to get to talk to you because you also raised your son and he became a footballer as well. So what are something that you think you have done right that you are able to transform that mentality to your son?
I think, listen, sometimes it's DNA. Sometimes it's in your genes, isn't it? I think the hardest thing for me was with my son Thomas was that sometimes you try to, as I mentioned before about the generation's changing, and I was probably giving him maybe when he was young, when he was little, I was just going, Thomas, come on, and it kind of used to affect him a little bit, but I didn't understand how much it affected him, and I didn't realise that, you don't really get the response that you want when what happened to me in my time was fine because I could deal with it. If Roy Keane was having a go at me, or shout at me, it'd be fine. I'm like, okay, no problem, get on with it. But as the generation changed, you can't do it no more. And but I used to tell him, we should sit down after every game, watch it, ask him the questions, not tell him the questions. I used to ask him a question, and I'll say, "What do you think?" And he'll say, "Well, maybe I could have done this better. You've done this well, we've done that well." And understanding of the game, and understanding of the pressure that it is to be my son, and I think one thing Thomas has always said to me that he wants to be his own person. He doesn't want to be known as Paul Ince's son, and we're completely different players. He's a winger, I'm a midfield player, but I think the early stages everyone was going, "Oh, that's Paul Ince's son, Thomas." But now, he's made his marking game, and now, "Oh, that's Thomas's Ince." And actually, lately, when I'm sometimes out, they go, "Oh, that's Thomas's dad." So it's just like these roles have reversed, which is pleasing for me because I like that. But it's tough. Thinking about Thomas, he loved football. A lot of players nowadays don't love football. They just treat it as a job. So sometimes, if I ask a player about, "Did you see this game? Did you watch the Cup final? Did you watch the European Championship?" Some say, "No, I didn't watch it." And I think, well, if you love the game, but they don't, and this is why, this is why you lose all these characters because they don't love it. They treat it, not all of them, but they treat it as a job. But Thomas loves the game. If you ask him about Spanish football, French football, Italian football, German football, he'll tell you a lot, and he loves to watch it. So this is where we are at this moment in the 21st century. Players don't really like to watch football. They like to go to their phones and the computers and the FIFA and esports and all that type of stuff. So which is a shame really. It's such a wonderful sport. So, but Thomas, no, he loves his football.
Your son were born a bit earlier than the generation that may be a bit more fragile. If you even have your son right now, is there anything that you might you want to maybe advise yourself? I'm asking this to give a good advice for the father that want to develop.
Listen, with Thomas, I think this as a father, you have to learn. And you listen, some things you say wrong, some things you do wrong. But most of the things I do wrong are actually the right things. But he thinks they're the wrong things because he's not used to the things that I used to do when we were. We have the experience as fathers, what I mean? And we're here to give you that experience, that advice. And that advice you might think is not the right advice for you because it goes against what you might think. But what we're telling you is something that we've experienced. We understand times have changed and generations have changed, but things that we've experienced, we're giving you that advice, and that advice you then take onto your children, their children, and that's the way it has to be. And you take what you want from that. I will give you everything experience that you want. You take what's right, what you think's right, and what you think's wrong, and you go with that. And what will happen is, when I'm not here anymore, you'll think about, "Oh, what did my dad say? Yeah, I remember he did this. Remember he did that." And that's the most important thing.
Any advice to the father that we are here at the golf club that also have schools here. Any advice to the father that like they are focusing on the son that they are raising in this generation?
Listen, I feel, one thing about all my children, but more so Thomas because he played football. Even growing up, so we've got a wonderful complex here. A wonderful golf. I'm sure there'll be loads of kids who want to be golfers or footballers or whatever they want to be. Tennis players, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is for me is education. Education. And I said to my son, I stopped my son from going for training with Liverpool because his grades wasn't good enough. He wasn't doing his homework. So I said, listen, you're not going to go to training until you get your grades right, you do your homework, and because he's love of football, he actually had to do his homework because there's only 1% of players who make it. 1%. You think about that, or whatever sport. So you need to have an education behind you. So as a father and like as parents, you get excited when your young child or your daughter or son or whatever it may be is doing really well at such a young age, and they get excited by it, but they forget sometimes things can happen. You get injured, and it's gone. And if you haven't taken your education seriously enough, what's next for you in life? So I think that's important to drum it home to young kids. Education, be humble, respect.
Speaking of, you have seen so many things. Like you are footballers, and there are like top days where you play amongst like hundreds of thousands.
Adulation all the time, yeah. For me, it was simple. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a footballer. And the only reason why I wanted to be a footballer because I wanted to have a family that I didn't have. So the only way I could do that, is to be a footballer. And my goal was I want to play football. I don't care for who. I just want to be able to have a wife, children, have a nice house. That's it. Obviously, it kind of went on to West Ham, Man United, Inter. But once I established and got married, as I said, I've been married, 35 years this year, which is fantastic, But once I had my kids and that was a success for me. Nothing after that I would not consider a failure, you know what I mean? So I love playing in front of crowds. I love playing in big games. I love playing with great players. I loved it. I feel privileged that I had the opportunity to do that. And football is your life. You spend so much time away from your wife, your children, so many experiences that you miss, like birthdays and Christmases, that you don't get to experience, you know what I mean? And so when it's all finished, it was fine for me because I still went into management. So I still had that kind of football connection, but I was able to spend more time, with my wife, watching Thomas play football, my other two children, one's a very good golfer, and my daughter now lives in London. So I think you've got to have that realisation that, you kind of immerse yourself in football so much, you forget about what's most important, and that's your family. And that's the message, that's the family. And you're right, some people do struggle, when it's all gone and it's finished, and, it's such a short career, football. You don't think so, but it soon hits you like that, bang. And it's such a short career, and then people don't know how to cope after. When people stop noticing them and stop signing autographs that they've had for 20 years, mentally it can affect you. It really can, but that's when you then need the support of your family to rely on, and unfortunately I've got that.
So it's the football, not the fame or not the money. It's the football itself that you fall in love.
It's always been about football. Money. Money's nice. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to do things, but people can't do. But I've never been that way. I don't have loads of houses. I don't have boats. I have just a house, nice family, and that's it. And that's what football's given me. And I'm lucky that I've got that. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure.